but it is for reach. If you want to build relationships, you want to make sales, the biggest goal is to get them off of social media, right? I want
Okay.
their email list. I want them to join my email list. I want them to
Yes.
request a freebie, do
Yeah.
something, so fill out a form so
Mm-hmm.
that I can connect with them when they're not on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a handful of times a day people are going on social media, right?
Yeah.
Doing some mindless scrolling and stuff like that. But only if I show up in their scroll do they see me.
Right. That's
So I want to control that interaction. And so that's why I want to push everybody over to email
Mhm.
eventually and get them off of social. People are creating a bunch of garbage
Mhm.
with AI, flat out. They are. If you don't want to create garbage with AI, give it your ideas, give it your expertise, review what it gives you,
Mhm.
and then edit it a little bit before you hit post.
Mhm.
It'll still save you a ton of time,
Mhm.
but it'll give you that opportunity to
Mhm.
differentiate yourself and stand out.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Your Lab Central. Today I'm joined with Kendra. So Kendra, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about this conversation?
We should be excited about the conversation because we're going to talk about how I messed up with social media like 100 million times before I think I finally got it right in a way that it doesn't overtake my days,
Mhm.
and doesn't, well, still allows me to actually work in the business and on the business, not just playing around in social media.
So where do you want to start? I mean, messing up with social media is something that probably everybody does some part of the day itself. Right? Especially in the field that you're in, marketing and helping others do the marketing, sorting out stuff like that. So where do you want to help us with this? Where should we start?
So we can start with the biggest mistake that I made. And the biggest mistake that I made when leveraging social media is that I felt that I was in marketing. So I needed to be on all of the social media sites.
Uh,
So I got them all and I was posting on all of them and I wasn't engaging on any of them because I was spending too much time posting.
mhm.
I use a system called Metricool now for my social media scheduling. That was not a mistake that I had made. I love Metricool, but along the way, I've used a couple other schedulers. They're all fairly equally as good. Metricool is just cheaper and better, in my opinion. But I was posting and spending so much time posting that I wasn't sending emails and when I would get behind, like I would go dark for
Uh,
months. I
okay.
actually got a phone call from someone. I was supposed to do a presentation to their organization, and they called me up and they were like, "Hey, you haven't posted on social media in 2 months."
Yeah.
Because I was so busy with everything else. I just didn't take
Yeah.
the time to do it. And
Hmm.
I didn't have a process. And she said, "Are you still around and are you still going to be presenting tomorrow?" And I'm like,
Right.
Yeah, I'm still going to be presenting tomorrow." But because I hadn't posted on social media for so long, she thought I wasn't in business anymore. Like it's crazy how much that impacts things. Right. So
Yeah.
staying current was really important.
Hmm.
And so what I did is I picked two social media channels that I like to use and leverage. So one is LinkedIn, the other is YouTube.
Yeah.
And those are the places that I engage with people. I
Mhm.
still have Instagram, I still have Facebook, I have all of those. I just don't engage and
Mhm.
have conversations there. So if I'm going to send people someplace, I send them to LinkedIn or YouTube,
Mhm.
because that's where I'm going to have a conversation and
Yeah.
fulfill the social part of social
Yeah.
media.
Now, how did you come to decide that this was your particular social media platform where you want to engage with people? I mean, that is a decision that needs to be made. How did you actually arrive that, yeah, my audience is basically here and not on some other platform?
So I have a belief that Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, they're all big enough that I believe most businesses,
Hmm.
you're a section of your audience is on any of those, right? So which one are you most comfortable with? And which one do you enjoy the most? And which one are you going to interact with the most?
Yeah.
And it's changed for me because it started off as Facebook. and
Okay.
migrated over to LinkedIn because LinkedIn's a lot more desktop friendly. I spend a lot of time at my computer with my two huge monitors
Yeah.
and my whole setup here.
Right.
And I don't do as much on my cell phone as I used to. And that's what had me commenting on Facebook all the time, right?
Mhm.
And so when I started engaging on LinkedIn, I started to get better results,
Right.
m- better followers, better quality inquiries, leads, direct messages than I did on Facebook. And so being a business to business marketing agency,
Mhm.
it really helped me create that connection
Mhm.
with with my audience, with the people that I connect with, and I get referrals all the time off of
Yeah.
LinkedIn. From a YouTube perspective, I like YouTube because it's not a pay to play network.
Right.
It's not quite as, yes, you can advertise, yes, you can do all of that. But there's a lot of ways that you can show up when people are searching questions on how to do things. And it's just a very authentic platform.
Right.
Right. So that's the other reason that I picked YouTube as my second favorite. And then personally, I've just never liked LinkedIn or Instagram. I don't know why. I just never got into it. I use it for clients. I do post on it. I post reels from my podcast and things like
Okay.
that, but it's just never been some place that I go to do anything in.
Mm-hmm. Now, since you're a marketing expert as well, we could talk about how businesses leverage social media and how you have changed your outlook, and probably somebody else has changed their outlook with while working with you. Um, any specific incident that you want to talk about where it was a 180-degree shift that they had to go through because they were not in the right direction and probably they had some reasons for doing that.
So, yes. So, I have a client
Hmm.
that was obsessed with social media, like
Hmm.
obsessed with social media. They were posting every day, no
Uh,
problem, right? I have no issue with posting every day. Sometimes they were posting 2 to 3 times a day. So, I cut that down and their engagement went up. So, that was one thing. We changed those second and third posts to reels and stories
hmm.
rather than just regular posts.
Hmm.
But they wanted likes on comments, responses to comments within 2 hours
Okay.
of the comment going. Well, they had one team member that was basically their entire day consumed
Hmm.
by social media. They
Hmm.
don't have the resources to be doing that. They were doing nothing else. There was no strategy, no
Okay.
follow up, no other thing with that. And so we've gotten them down to a little bit more of a more reasonable expectation on social media. They
Mm.
get a little bit of business off of social media, little bit of questions and things like that. We've slowed it down so that the person managing social media is only checking messages and comments three
Yeah.
times a day when they come in the middle of the day, like right before or after lunch, and then before they leave for the day. And that's really all that needs to happen.
Hmm.
So, really changed it that way. I have them looking at social media as a reach tool. So,
Okay.
social media is, I don't know how we lived without it, right? It is a great way to reach people that
Yeah.
aren't your normal audience,
Hmm.
right? Those are people that you don't know, that you maybe don't
Yeah.
have a connection to. It is a fantastic tool,
Hmm.
but it is for reach. If you want to build relationships, you want to make sales, the biggest goal is to get them off of social media, right? I want
Okay.
their email list. I want them to join my email list. I want them to
Yes.
request a freebie, do
Yeah.
something, so fill out a form so
Mm-hmm.
that I can connect with them when they're not on social media,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a handful of times a day people are going on social media, right?
Yeah.
Doing some mindless scrolling and stuff like that. But only if I show up in their scroll do they see me.
Right. That's
So I want to control that interaction. And so that's why I want to push everybody over to email
Mhm.
eventually and get them off of social.
Now that's actually a good point, right? Because yeah, there's only so many times people will be scrolling through their phones or on their laptop and something like that, and then you probably get them through a link and move out of the whole system, and then you can start the conversation itself. Uh,
Hmm.
now, where was I about to ask? I was about to ask something. It just skipped my mind, right?
I hate when that happens. It
Yeah,
happens to me all the
actually, yeah.
time. It's like I walk into a room and I'm like, what did I come in here for?
So what I was getting at driving was the Instagram and TikTok question, right? And actually, the one was basically quantity over quality debate that was there earlier, right? That was my basic question that was
Hmm.
driving at. Because at some point, a couple of years ago, or even just a year ago, there was the debate that it is more about quantity over quality, and then at some point, the algorithm has now switched to promoting quality content over the quantity of content that you're putting out and just forcing into the algorithm. Now, I think probably that is where your uh, thought process was when you changed that previous client's practice itself relating to social media. Uh,
Hmm.
how drastic has this change been for the whole environment per se?
So they don't have a full-time person just
Mhm.
on social media, which is
Yeah,
awesome, right?
yeah.
Because who has extra time like that, right? So
Mhm.
that was huge, first off. But second of all, yeah, they're posting more quality content.
Mhm.
I think to grow on Instagram, the last numbers that I saw were you needed to post once a day,
Mhm.
but you needed to post 4 reels and 2 stories.
Mhm. A week.
That's no, a day.
Oh, okay.
That was like that if you wanted to grow the people that grew, I can't remember who did it. Someone did a study that I read, and it was like, oh my gosh, who has time for all that stuff? So there's still
Right.
a quantity play in there. TikTok, I think they want you posting twice a day.
Mhm.
YouTube no more than once a day. LinkedIn no more than once a day.
Yeah.
Um, Probably why I've been drawn to YouTube and LinkedIn too, is on the algorithm side there.
Yeah.
But yes, quality is going to outshine quantity almost all of the time.
Yeah.
Again, I don't like being held hostage by algorithms.
Right.
I'm just not a fan, right? I don't want to be held hostage by them. And you are to an extent, which is why social media is an amazing tool to get people and have the conversation offline,
Mhm.
right? Goal of social media is to reach new people and get them off of the social media platform so you can contact them whenever you want and show
Yeah.
up where they're going to be. And so, yeah, so quality posts,
Mhm.
quality videos, quality images, if they have multiple things that they want to share, we can do all of that.
Yeah.
It makes it super easy to do with, um, again, posting less often, responding on a longer time frame, right?
Right.
Giving us time
Mhm.
really, really helped there. The other thing that's been helping them is leveraging AI.
Mhm.
So I've helped them create their voice in AI. I've
Mhm.
helped them really use samples of previous posts that they've written and some frequently asked questions so that it's easier to copy and paste responses
Yeah.
and create those posts with more of a brain dump that
Yeah.
still gives a quality response in post.
Now, you've brought up two very interesting things when it comes for businesses, right? One is email marketing, and then there's the AI conversation that's happening. Now, people are using AI as a sounding board to get through, have a conversation, talk about their ideas, get some feedback. And yeah, there's one great way that you've said, right? You have a comment. How do I react to that comment? Because, yeah, now I've created this personality of my brand, and now I want the message to go out in such
Mhm.
and such fashion. uh, how can people start with this process, right? Because there's a lot of AI tools out there right now. But then to create that brand personality first that the AI understands and then the AI can replicate on a day-to-day basis, where do people
Yeah.
start?
So the first step is to get your voice out of AI. So I have a paragraph that I put in as a prompt that I'll send to you that you can put in the show notes.
Hmm.
So I have a prompt that you give it examples of stuff that you've really written that
Hmm.
you like, that's in your
Yeah,
voice. So
yeah,
if it's a blog, you post a blog. If it's a LinkedIn post, you post like 3 examples of LinkedIn posts or
yeah,
Facebook posts or Instagram captions, whatever that happens to be.
yeah.
And you give it examples of stuff you really wrote and really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will tell you what your voice is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have a voice for blogs and LinkedIn. You don't mix them. So don't put blogs and LinkedIn in the same because then it'll
Yeah,
get
that's right.
confused. But you get your voice paragraph and then you train the AI on the voice paragraph and you will get consistent responses in the voice that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's step one. Step two is tell your AI that it's okay to question you. If they
Okay.
don't have enough information or they're not sure it's the
Right.
right way to go, it's okay to question you.
Mm-hmm.
I use AI for one of my clients when I'm responding to Google reviews. And so I copied and pasted the complaint on into I
Mm-hmm.
think Claude I was using. And I said to Claude, and it's a special project that I created and it's got all my information and her name is Susie Strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Susie, I said, I need to respond to um, this comment. Can you help give me a response to it? And she said, sure, here you go. And she gave me a very nice response. I liked it. It was in the voice of the client. It was
Mm-hmm.
perfect. But I was like, well, one of the things that I wasn't sure was missing was I was like, well, should we say if you were a, because they weren't a customer of my
Mm-hmm.
client, they would just happen to be using some services that they got as a benefit from somebody else.
Okay.
I was like, well, they wouldn't have had that problem if they were a customer, right? And so I said, should we say you should become our customer? And she goes, No. She goes, no, do not do that. It violates all of your core values, this, that, and the other. And I was like, I didn't know if I should or shouldn't. And I was
Yeah.
leaning towards should not,
Mm-hmm.
but it was amazing. She told me, no, don't do that. And I was like, yay. It backed up what I thought, which was
Yeah.
good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I thought that was pretty powerful because I had given her permission to question and ask and not just assume that I know best when I'm asking a
Yeah.
question.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Now,
was the right decision.
yeah, because I mean, if you can actually teach the bot itself to behave in a certain manner, and then you are diverting from the basic idea itself,
Mhm.
it's nice to have somebody, even if it's not a person, at least a
Right.
system that can tell you that you're going in the wrong direction, something.
Hmm. Exactly.
Now, in the email marketing space, right?
Hmm.
One thing that people have struggled with, I have struggled with sometime, quite a few times actually, getting good open rates, right? The audience looks at the sender's name and then they probably, I myself do this, right? I look at the sender's name and I just click it to delete the mail itself. I don't even read
Hmm.
the, what do you call it? The subject itself, so that
Hmm.
even if I read the subject, there is a probability that I'll open the mail. But no, that itself doesn't happen. I read the name of the sender and I just delete it because I know it's pointless for me to even go into that mail itself. Now, how do you overcome this first step where your name itself has become the point where your audience does not want to read your mail?
So first off, make sure that the from name is something that people do want to get, right? If it's you, you want it to be your name. So for me, it doesn't say kendracorman.com or HDH Consulting. It says Kendra Corman, right? It looks like it's coming from me and my
Yeah.
email address.
Right.
And that's important. So you want it to come from whoever they have the relationship with, right? So if you're a salesperson, you want it to come from you. If you're a coach, a consultant, it shouldn't come from your company, right?
Right.
You want something that they're going to engage with. So that's first. That helps get them hopefully over to the subject line. And
Mhm.
then you want the subject line to be something that they want to open,
Yeah.
right? It shouldn't be, Kendra's news or Kendra's monthly news, issue 257, right? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares, right? What's in it for them? What's going to make them want to read more?
Mhm.
So, my last email, couple weeks ago, it said like why I binged the Fourth Wing and which is a book series that I read, and instead of help working on my social media. And
Mhm.
I think it was like I batch read Fourth Wing instead of batching content. Oops. Right.
Yeah.
I've had subject lines that are like yes or no.
Hmm.
Right. I do something that's hopefully intriguing
Hmm.
to the person reading that they'll want to read more.
Hmm.
I'm okay if people unsubscribe. I'm actually a big fan. Please, if you don't want to get my emails, unsubscribe because I don't want you in my list. I'm throwing off my indications that I send good stuff.
Hmm.
But most of my list, um, right now, I think I'm at 80% of my list engages with my content.
Right.
So they're opening, they're clicking, they're filing it somewhere, but it's all any of those actions are going to send their email service provider, so Google, Yahoo, Microsoft Outlook, whatever that happens to be,
Hmm.
signals that your content is worth
Right.
getting. And so celebrate the unsubscribes so that they're not just hitting delete. Make sure it's a name that they recognize, and
Yeah.
then create a subject line that generates curiosity.
Hmm. But as you said, right, if you're sending a periodic mail, it's highly likely that you'll have a right newsletter number or something of that sort. But you don't want them to feel like it's just a regular newsletter that you're sending out to everybody, right? It's something personal to them. And so this becomes kind of a problem. Do you have a method or a framework that you've come up with to write subject lines which could help people? Or have you
So I
Yeah.
use AI to generate ideas on the subject lines, right? I ask for 2 to 4 words.
Mm-hmm.
It already has my voice, and I give it the email.
Mm-hmm.
And I will ask it for a couple of different
Mm-hmm.
options. So again, I'll say like 2 to 4 words. If I don't get enough ideas there, I'll do 5 to 7 words, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it just gets too long.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to show up on a preview on mobile, right? So if they're
Yeah.
scrolling through on their phone, I want them to be able to see that subject line on their mobile device.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so when I give it the email and I say, let's come up with some subject lines, I want to invoke curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and I want to have a little fun with it and I want to drive them to open it,
Mm-hmm.
then they go ahead and click on it. And I have a free guide on subject lines with a bunch of subject lines that I've written that have gotten really good open rates and a
Yeah.
little bit with what I've done to with AI on how to get those. So I give it examples of ones that are good, examples of ones that have had lower open rates. Again, more
Yeah.
information you give AI, the better the results you're going to get.
Yeah.
But they look at your name first, just like
Yeah.
you said, right? Then they look at the subject line.
Right.
And so make it a little bit intriguing, have a little fun with it. It could be one word,
Mm-hmm.
right? Think
Okay.
about how you would address an email if you were sending it and you were typing in the subject line
Mm-hmm.
just in Gmail and sending it to a friend who
Mm-hmm.
happens to also be your ideal client, right? So what would you say to them in that subject line? That's what you type there.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to help you get those open rates.
All right. I had tried, I mean, yeah, I've been using AI for content writing specifically
Hmm.
for my website, especially basically just product descriptions. I feed it the whole description of how I want, how the product is, and then I say that, yeah, I want to write it in this format in such a
Hmm.
way that it sends a message to this audience. So, yeah. I've come up these prompts, right? Even writing that prompt is an art itself. Having practiced it over so many times, try to write the same prompt for so many iterations, you come up with the format itself,
Hmm.
right? Yeah. First you describe, and then you say that you want to write it in a particular fashion, and
Hmm.
then this is the audience. How should you? So yeah, that's.
One of the things that I do to save time, or I can give you like 2 different ways I save time. So, one, I have the paid version of both ChatGPT and Claude
Mm-hmm.
and quite a few other systems, but we won't talk about that because it gets expensive.
Yeah.
But if you have the paid version of ChatGPT or Claude, you can create in Claude, they're called projects, and in ChatGPT, they're called custom GPTs. So you can
Right.
save a lot of that base information, right? You are a website content conversion copywriter, right? For this company. You've
Yeah.
been hired and you have expertise in X, Y, and Z. This is
Mhm.
the format for product descriptions. This is the format for blog pages. I would
Yeah.
actually create different projects or cheap GPTs for blogs and versus product descriptions, but you give it the format and then you give it the voice.
Mhm.
And then All you need to do is say, hey, here's this. I need this project description
Yeah.
formatted, and it'll do it for you.
Yeah, something I experimented with was also trying to just feed it the image of the product itself and
Mhm.
then say that write it in so and so method. It worked sometimes. I was using a free version, but still it worked out fine for me
It
because
does really well with pictures.
yeah.
The other version, if you want to keep using the free version, the other way to save time is to use a tool called Text Expander.
Hmm.
It's not super expensive. I'm trying to remember how much it is. I think it's like $18 a year or something like that.
That's pretty cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not super expensive. I'm looking it up right now in the background here. And it will allow you to do shortcuts. So
Hmm.
you could use like the semicolon voice and it'll give you your AI voice, or it could be
Right.
like semicolon LinkedIn and it'll give you your LinkedIn voice. You can create shortcuts.
Hmm.
So, product description prompt, right? You could do
Yeah.
the colon product, right? Or Z product or something like that. And that short code will actually fill in all of that
All of
text
that.
for
Yeah.
you, especially if it's copied over and over again. So yeah, I think it's $40, 40 US dollars a year for the individual plan.
Hmm.
And so that can really save you time if you save those prompts that
Hmm.
you use over and over again.
Hmm.
And it makes it so much easier.
That's true. But what do you have to say when the internet and social media in general as well, even on LinkedIn these days, we're just bombarded with these AI written content and social posts that are there. People trying to become influencers right off the bat, just using ChatGPT or Claude, trying to write posts for them using a custom GPT if they have the resources, or they're just trying to tweak whatever been written for them.
So I think the biggest thing is the people that are doing that are lazy. I
Hmm.
mean, flat out, you're lazy. If you're not putting in your thoughts and your ideas as part of the input to get the output that you want, if you're not putting in your voice, if you're not taking that extra step and then editing before you post and like, I don't know, reading the whole thing before you post it, right?
Yeah.
That's just lazy,
Hmm.
right? AI is a helper. There are better things that are coming out and it's
Yeah.
getting better every day. I agree with that 100%. It's becoming more of a tool. It's almost becoming like a partner and everything.
Right.
But I like to refer to it as a tool, right?
Yeah.
It's just a different tool. Like back in the day when we
Exactly.
had calculators, right? We
Yeah.
got calculators. That was a huge time saver.
Hmm.
Then we got, our cell phones that had built-in calculators, right? Our smartphones. And we
Yeah.
had calculators everywhere we went when our teachers told us in like third grade that was never going to happen. And, so times are changing.
Yeah.
And people are creating a bunch of garbage
Hmm.
with AI, flat out. They are. If you don't want to create garbage with AI, give it your ideas, give it your expertise, review what it gives you,
Hmm.
and then edit it a little bit before you hit post.
Hmm.
It'll still save you a ton of time,
Hmm.
but it'll give you that opportunity to differentiate yourself and stand out. I post AI assisted, as I like to call it, rather than AI generated content
Yeah.
on my LinkedIn profile all the time.
Hmm.
I was in a conversation on LinkedIn back and forth with a couple of other
Yeah.
people where we were commenting on each other's thing about AI. All of my responses were AI assisted.
Hmm.
And because I just did a brain dump on what I wanted to say, copied,
Yeah.
pasted, edited a little bit, and posted it. And I told them, I was like, this was AI assisted. This
Hmm.
was AI assisted. This was AI assisted. Not one person, the comments about the fact that they couldn't believe it was AI assisted
Hmm.
was surprising because it didn't sound like the ones that people are phoning in. If
Hmm.
all you're doing is opening up the homepage of ChatGPT and say, write me a post on LinkedIn about, I don't know, the state of the internet,
All
you're
right.
going to get boring stuff. But if you say, hey, write me a post about the best ways to use AI and save time, specifically writing LinkedIn posts, my experience has been X, Y, and Z, and I
Hmm.
want to make sure that I cover that you need to edit, right? totally different post.
Yeah, that's right.
Totally different post, right?
Right.
And you get a totally different and much better result.
Hmm.
I mean, people have been creating junk
Hmm.
and phoning things in for a long, long time, right?
Yeah.
And so AI didn't make that new. It just made it easier for more people to do that. And
Yeah.
I think you got to push back, right? You got to push back on that. You've got to edit and look it over. And the people that aren't going to take the time, just ignore them and move on.
Now, before we close, there something for businesses, right, or people in general trying to build a brand. What is one thing that they should not be doing on social media?
Don't be on all of them. Go ahead, protect your brand, get them all. Pick one or two that you can manage
Okay.
and be there,
Mm.
right? One at a time. Manage
Right.
one successfully, then you can add. But do not try to be every single place just because you think you should. You
Mm.
shouldn't,
Right.
because you're not going to do it well.
Yeah, that's quite relatable. Yeah, we tried that. Doesn't work. Never
It
has.
does not.
Trying to be
All you
in,
do is get burnt out.
yeah, trying to be in so many boats at the same time. So, Kendra, where can people get in touch with you? Have if they have any more questions, where can people
So
get in?
LinkedIn, like I said, is the best place to reach me. You can find my profile, kendracorman.com/LinkedIn, and it'll redirect you to my LinkedIn profile. I'd love to connect. Otherwise, you can find me at kendracorman.com.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Yeah, we talked a lot about social media marketing, email marketing, AI. We did a lot of stuff today.
A
Thank
lot
you
of
so
stuff.
much.
Cool. It
Thank
all
you so
works
much.
together. That's the key.
Yeah, that's right, actually. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, it's not so difficult to imagine how you can blend AI into social media, then email, and then in the whole marketing scene itself. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm sure the audience will take a lot from this conversation that we had.
Thanks
To
so much for
the
having me.
for to the people who were listening and watching, the comment section is open. Don't forget to leave a comment if you have a question, if you want something to, if you want to add, or just want to blabber. It's fine. Do leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe before you close. Thank you so much for joining in. Thanks, Kendra.
Bye.